Well, I noticed with my hot water system, some of you will know how it works. It's basically a giant stock pot um, that runs on an overflow system. So you have cold water feed in the bottom, and then it basically overflows through a little slot that I've cut out the side of it at the very top into a pipe, and then, yeah, it's sort of like a batch system. It's about 40 litres, which, if I'm not incorrect, that's 10.5 gallons. And that's your sort of batch that you get. From there on out, it's essentially a instantaneous hot water, which during the summer, the water's fairly warm in the line already, being on a black plastic line. Um, it's like it's about 1.5 inch, I think, black plastic line. And of course, any water coming through that sort of warms slightly by the sun in the summer. Once you obviously run out of your initial heated batch of 10.5 gallons, uh, then you're back to it sort of being heated by the flames as it's flowing at its flow rate. I recently realised that because of multitude of issues with the foundations in this place, and probably, I believe, because of the serious weight of the shower base having so much concrete, it's actually starting to sink that slab on that end, or at least on that corner, and it's sort of misaligned itself a little bit with the pot and different things, me knocking the pipe here with my arms and whatnot, and maybe something to do with the angle of the way the three-ring burner that it's on is sitting, and thermal expansion happening over and over again. The pot didn't seem perfectly aligned, so I went to realign it, and it sort of tear out the silicon, which has never been great. Long and short of it, yeah, I went to go and silicon it back up. Now, many times I've knocked this and had to reset the silicon, but of course it seemed to have moved, or it seemed to have sagged down. Now, some of you notice here, that's where the piece was that was supporting it. In fact, it was actually a plastic piece that was on a bit of angle aluminium and other sort of trims. I think one's made for like you got those cabinets and you slide the little doors closed and stuff. It was sort of like one of those sort of a trims, and this plastic was in there and it was cut to shape, and you can actually tell she been sagging. With the heat of the water, it's actually slowly sagged this. Now, I've used this now for at least 2 years. I think it's more. I think it might even be 4 years. After I got sick to death of all the electronic problems and all the shenanigans and all the bullshit and running around trying to get deep cycle 6-volt batteries and all these other carry-ons that happened with the Coleman hot water system that then got stuck on one set temperature and blah, 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 blah. And I just had enough of all the bullshit and electronics and strange 6-volt system that it was about, and its overpriced little shit water pumps that should have been about a $10 pump that cost 60, and those getting full of algae and the filter of them being blocked and eventually clapping out from the brushes. Anyway, needless to say, there's a lot of bullshit. This here is gone. It's stainless steel, or so it says. It's another cheap Chinese manufacturer. It's so hard I couldn't drill through it, so I don't know if it's a high carbon steel or something like that. I should have been able to get through stainless steel, although it's very hard, and the drill bits I was using also weren't the best in the world. When it was leaking, it started dripping water down below, so I set up a little bit of, once again, some sort of aluminium trim to channel the water away from the woodwork and catch it in a little aluminium pot that I'd been given years ago, actually by the brother-in-law's family, and that was catching the water, because this would drip while it was running, and it would sort of, some water would still be in system, which would leak out into that pot by dripping through. And the real reason she's dripping through, I went to go and touch up the silicon, and she's absolutely rusted to shite. And and there we go. And as you can see, there's a lot of white corrosion there. That's usually reaction between like galvanized. When you have Zincalume, which is a mix of zinc and aluminium, which is a coating they put on sheds here, and you mix it with the old style just galvanized, which is straight zinc, you get this sort of a weird white corrosion that occurs. But this is rusted right out, and I thought, the silicon's broken, and then the whole thing just fucking pulled away on me. I was like, holy shit, this is beyond the joke. As you can see, there's a little bit of heat stress here. Luckily, because I've been doing renovations and I went and grabbed that stuff from out the back, and I've got some more new stuff, we can easily replace this whole pipe, which I'll probably do because I've got piles of it, and I'll just probably cut this off there and throw it back in my spares pile. Something like that anyway. I believe this is... No, it's not. I thought I might have riveted it on. The trouble with this pot has been that that's the remains of a rivet there. When we want to focus, which we bloody never do, that's the remains of a rivet right there. Yep. One there and one there. No, just 2 rivets. Reason being, I couldn't really cut this at all with anything. I ended up cutting it with an angle grinder, and I got a big V. And the rivets actually went into the cut slots of the angle grinder. I'm not joking, because I could not drill through it. Yeah, it would have been nice to try to make it a nice rounder thing, or even if it was a V cut slot and I had drilled holes through to put the rivets through, but alas, it just wasn't going to happen. So long and short of it is, I said next time anything happens, I'm changing this, and I most likely am changing it to a softer aluminium pot, so I can drill holes and just be done with it all. And, put my rivets in like a normal person. I've got to get my hands on another one of these. These are quite hard to get. There's only one hardware store I know to buy them from. It's a 50mm circular downpipe, which is made for very small gutters for porches. Anyway, I really think push has come to shove at this point, and it's time to go down to Asia Town. So I'm going to have to make a run into the state capital. I'll really drive in there. And literally go get myself a pot.